very obvious why they're called the crossbenchers, not because people are cross.
My guide knows this place pretty well, how it works, who's who. Since 2011 she's been Lord Speaker, a role which involves overseeing proceedings here, representing the Lords at home and abroad, and sitting on a sack of wool.
Do you want to sit on it?
I would love to sit on it. But the business in here, over which Baroness D'Souza presides, has come under increasing criticism from the government. 247 members of the House of Lords sit as Conservative peers, making the governing party a significant minority of the 807 members eligible to take part in the upper house. The government has faced 60 defeats in the House of Lords in the most recent parliamentary session. The rate of defeats this time round is more than twice that of the 1997 to 2001 Parliament. Then the government was defeated in less than a quarter of votes, compared to more than half in the present one. Now there's a sense that the Lords are too rebellious. They've been too rebellious over the last few years, and the Lords should wind their neck in.
You know, all governments and all parliamentarians, or at least House of Commons, always feel that the House of Lords is a place that thwarts them in one way or another. And they're right, they do. But that is in the nature of our, two-chamber system. They have all the power, and rightly so. I still think it's right that the Lords should be free to scrutinise and to question and to hold the government to account and to send back legislation which it feels is not adequate, either in terms of its clarity or because perhaps it infringes from time to time individual liberties which we all hold dear.
And that's exactly what happened last October. The House of Lords effectively blocked the government's proposed changes to tax credits, a massive blow to George Osborne's welfare plans.
Unelected Labour and Liberal Lords have voted down a matter passed by the elected House of Commons that raises constitutional issues, and David Cameron and I are clear they will need to be dealt with.
My Lords, by hand.
The way they dealt with it was to ask Lord Strathclyde to conduct a review. He concluded peers should lose their absolute veto over detailed laws known as secondary legislation, and instead be allowed only to send it back to the Commons to think again.
There's going to be a lively debate about this in the House of Lords, and I think that there will be a lot of views expressed, and obviously you would expect the Lords to want to retain their power, to scrutinise their power, their privilege. And if you start curtailing or eroding or limiting the power of the Lords to do its job, there is a question as to what is it there for.
There's another question too, over the sheer number of peers in the Lords. Baroness D'Souza told me she would be pushing for a Lords motion in the new session. She says the House of Lords should not be larger than the Commons, suggesting the number of peers could be cut to around 500. At least 20% of them should be independents or crossbenchers. And no one party should have a political majority. She says all of that could be achieved by 2020. So the size is making it inefficient?
I think one could say that is right. It does have an impact, unfortunately, on the role of the House of Lords in holding the government to account. It's very difficult if you are limited to sort of, say, in time debates, a minute or 2 minutes to speak, to develop a sustained argument which will convince your fellow peers, but also the government, of what it is you're trying to put across.
The tradition, pomp and ceremony of the Lords is well known. But its relationship with the Commons and exactly what role it can play in the future is far more uncertain.